Quietly announced over at Eurobike 2018, the CycleOps H2. Well, it's the Hammer 2, but they've dropped the hammer, so to speak. I think we'll all refer to it as the Hammer 2 because that's just easier. First up, we'll start with everything you need to know about this trainer in 60 seconds, starting now. Direct drive interactive smart trainer, so rear wheel comes off with this unit. AMP Plus FEC and Bluetooth Smart, no FTMS at this stage. Transmits speed, power and cadence. It also has the Bluetooth trifecta if you're an Apple TV user, so you can use power, controllable trainer and cadence for the unit, all through the one Bluetooth channel. Bike compatibility, quick release and through axle up to 148 with the adapters included in the box. Power accuracy claims plus or minus 2%, spot on. Maximum power 2000 watts. Grade simulation up to 20% grade. Flywheel size is quite large, 20 pounds, 9 kilos. That's huge, gives a good ride feel with that pedal stroke. Unit weight 47 pounds, 21.3 kilos. This is quite a heavy box to move around. The H2 comes fully assembled in the box, but you will need to supply your own cassette. The free hub on the unit itself is a Shimano SRAM compatible. Campagnolo users, you can also use an 11-speed Shimano cassette because the spacing's just the same. The trainer is also Zwift certified. I don't know what that means. Look, to be honest, there's not a lot of changes here in the feature sets from the Hammer to the H2. I guess under the hood, there's probably a few tweaks and changes made based on the feedback they've had from users, given the Hammer's been out in the market for quite some time. Oh, and the new color as well. It's gunmetal gray. Okay, with the specs out of the way, let's get this thing unboxed, the bike installed, and a few rides done. Okay, I think the most difficult task that I encountered in setting up the CycleOps H2 was trying to find out how to get inside the box. I do eventually figure it out. Everything's packed neatly inside. There's the manual, the box of goodies. We'll run through that in a second. And the most important part, the trainer itself. Okay, running through everything that comes in the box. Gunmetal grey H2, the manual, all the adapters required for bike compatibility, and the power cable. There's no skewer included or cassette. Hidden feature here on the H2, same with the Hammer. Underneath here is the little front wheel riser. It's only a very small riser with the hidden little surprise here. It is a disc brake saver, hydraulic disc brake. So you put that between your rear discs when you remove the rear wheel so they don't squash together and stay there. If you're a Hammer owner or a H2 owner, check for one of those. You will have one underneath your trainer. Okay, time to get these legs spread out. If you release that first. There we go, locked in place. Onto the cassette, using an 11 speed here, so I've removed the spacer and straight on once we've lined up the splines. And on with the lock ring tool. There is enough resistance in the unit here so you don't have to use the chain whip in that direction. As the skewer isn't supplied, I've had to go and find one. Nice strong steel skewer, always recommended for indoor use. Power cable here on the side, and the unit also has LED lights indicating what's what and when it's turned on. Alrighty, over to the bike installation here. Direct drive trainers, I always put the bike into the lowest gear on the back, line that up with the rear cog, and boom, straight on. Simple as that. Then making sure everything's nice and snug down. Front wheel riser in place. A little bit of wiggle, so I will adjust the rear legs there. It does overshoot my trainer mat that I've got down today. So once they're all in place, nice and solid, we'll give it a bit of a spin before getting stuck into my session. Jumping over here to my favorite website, DC Rainmaker's analysis tool, where we can compare multiple power meters with overlays and see who's who when it comes to power responsiveness, accuracy, or just tracking against each other. The first test I've got here are the Asioma Duo pedals on the bike, the Hammer H2. I've also got the stages left-right unit. I'm going to pretty much ignore the stages for now. That's another discussion for another day. What we're going to do is jump into about 45 minutes or so of riding along here. The numbers indicate 199.3 watts versus 199.74 watts for the Asiomas and the Hammer H2. Very, very close there. Looking good, just riding along. Diving a little closer into the sprint here. Now, the original Hammer was known to overshoot sprints a little bit. It's a common thing with trainers, depending on where they measure power and how they do it, they'll overestimate that sprint a little bit, and we're seeing the same here with the H2. Just overkicks a little bit more by about probably 70 or 80 watts against the Asiomas and the stages on the bike itself. But overall, not too bad. You saw the numbers there, matching pretty close. One thing to note of the cadence supplied by the H2 is that it's estimated cadence. So as your pedal stroke does this, it tries to grab where the power is being put down and estimate your cadence. That becomes very difficult for a cadence estimator when you are not putting a consistent number of pedal strokes into the chain. So you can see here it's a little bit jerky, a little bit jumpy around. So it's not bad as a cadence sensor, but it's not perfect. If you've got an on-bike cadence sensor, definitely the way to go. Jumping over here to my standard Lama lab test. After the 10-minute warm-up, you can see there, stop, we do a calibration / spin down. By the way, the calibration or the spin down of the unit is required every now and then, but you need to use the Ruvi app. PowerTap really need, or CycleOps really need their own little utility app, just like what Wahoo have with the Wahoo Fitness app, to keep everything all in the one ecosystem, I guess. At the moment, they're sort of handing that off to the Ruvi app, which is a bit of a process to find out where the calibration is. I'll run that through here, and it just gets a little hard sometimes. So CycleOps, if you're watching, please can we just have one single utility app? That would be brilliant. That'll take care of firmware updates, that'll take care of calibration / spin downs if we need to do them, and also, while we're at it, throw in just some basic functionality such as erg mode, level mode, and sim mode. Now back on track to the data which we were looking at. Here is my standard Lama lab test. I'll just dive into the steady state. Spot on. Looking really, really good there. So 226 versus 226. Nothing to report there. Stages left, right was on the bike as well, reporting at 218. Okay, stages, you're for another day. Did have a slight dropout just here from the Hammer. I am encountering a few dropouts every now and then. More to look into there, but that's just what I was experiencing. Into the 2 sprints in the Lama lab test. 2 because the first one I didn't have enough gears and spun out. And we're seeing there the Hammer is overshooting sprint power a little bit again. Is what it is. Now jumping over to my over and unders in the Lama lab test, and this is where the H2 really, really excels. It is absolutely brilliant for this little session here. So you can see my 150 watts, 350 watts, 150 watts, 350 watts, up to then the 450s. This thing holds its own and does it really, really well. That big flywheel holds good inertia, so it's nice and smooth, has enough braking force to kick in those watts when it's needed and drop out. You can see there, this is probably one of the best trainers I've used for my 20-second over and under test. So 10 out of 10 for that section there. And then some more just riding along. So happy days in regards to my erg mode over and unders. Next up, trainer road, just to round off my completeness of the user experience. My survey the other day indicated that viewers of the channel, probably about 25% people use trainer road. So I'll include trainer road and what that's all about. So one big erg mode session today and a sprint at the end. All is looking pretty good. It's holding good watts. What have we got there power-wise? Let me just jump into this section here. 196 versus 193 and the Hammer 197. So the Asiomas versus the Hammer H2. Again, stages. Go for another day. Looking good. Looking really, really good. There is a dropout here for a few seconds. Again, I'll have to feed this data over to PowerTap / Saris, CycleOps. They're all the same. And for one more data point, after the trainer road session was done, I did a short little sprint. And again, we see the overshoot there. So it's very, very consistent with the power overshooting in those short little sprints. So my takeaway from the data there collected was in steady state, absolutely spot on. In the overs and unders, also very, very good. And just riding along was pretty good as well. The only letdown was those overshoots in the sprints. For me, an important attribute of a train is how does it feel? Does it feel like you're riding a bike or does it feel like you're pedaling in sand? Well, this one was pretty handy. That huge flywheel really ticks up. So when you're on top of the gear in erg mode, you're spinning along. Doesn't take much to keep tapping that power out. When you're climbing hills, the resistance really does kick in quite sharply with the H2, like it did with the Hammer, but it's there and it's pretty consistent. You can get out of the saddle. You're not going to be spinning this thing out when you're trying to do an acceleration, chasing someone down or hitting that next interval. Noise-wise, the H2 isn't a silent trainer, so it doesn't quite meet my 2018 standards, but it's not too loud either. I guess it's sort of mid-range. I really would have loved to have seen a belt redesign like we've seen from Wahoo. On the H2, it's not quite there yet. Maybe H3, we'll see that quieten down. Stability-wise, I had no problems at all with the H2. Those legs come out quite far, they're fully adjustable, and the unit's quite heavy, so it's not bouncing around in the sprints. My testing of the H2 trainer here in the Llama Lab hasn't been without its issues. Well, there's only one that I've encountered, and that was on the very first ride during my live stream where the power locked, the cadence locked, and I went absolutely nowhere. I'm putting this one down to a Zwift issue at the moment because there was a world swap. It said application not responding, it hung. It then joined a group ride and things just went south from there. I rebooted the unit, away it went, no problems at all, and I've been unable to replicate that. The data from that ride's over with CycleOps and Zwift, they're looking into it. With the introduction of the Epic KOM on Zwift and Elpda Zwift, a number of people have reported the hammer unit was overheating for them when climbing in sim mode for a long time with no let up whatsoever. I believe this has been addressed within firmware, and I haven't encountered this myself with the H2. On to pricing and availability. The unit started shipping in September 2018, so the H2 is already out and about with a price tag of $11.99, so $1,200 US. The original hammer is now down to $1,000. There's a $200 difference between the two. Is the H2 worth that extra $200? I'm not quite sure. I do recall some power issues with the original hammer. They may have been addressed with firmware. I haven't revisited that, but it's a tough one. Now the Kicker Core is out there on the market for $8.99. Things really heat up. Sure, it's comparing a mid-range trainer, the Core, to a premium level trainer, but look, at the end of the day, we just want something to put our bikes on, get a trainer session done, and go on about our day. Is it worth $300 difference? It's your call. As always, I'd recommend going to a bike store, putting your bike on to ensure compatibility, doing a bit of a ride if you can, and test riding before making the purchase. Alrighty, I'll wrap it there for today. Remember to hit subscribe on this YouTube channel to support what I'm up to, and thanks for watching.
Chris, in this case, jump in there, please. We really appreciate all the help that you're able to provide.
No brother on that. We have power users like Chad and Beast, who's in there, and we've actually already given him